Brilliance Audio presents Trusting Skylar by Susan Stoker. Performed by Lucy Rivers. Carson "Bull" Rhodes walked slowly and silently toward the target building. He knew his fellow Delta Force teammates were close behind him. They had his back, just as he had theirs. They'd snuck into Pakistan to find a high-value target, HVT, the Army had assigned them to eliminate. Fazlur Barzan Khatun, the leader of the Harkat-ul-Mujahideen terrorist group, had claimed responsibility for the ambush and killing of 47 American and British soldiers in Afghanistan the year before. The State Department had also learned the group was actively planning large-scale massacres in both the United States and France as well. Khatun was at the top of the FBI's most wanted list. Bull's heart was beating double time in his chest, and he felt energized. He and the others were good at their jobs. They were the best of the best, which was why the Army hadn't hesitated to send them undercover into hostile territory. The team had been dropped near the Pakistan border 24 hours ago and had reached the last place Khatun had been seen. Bull motioned for Smoke and Eagle to take positions on the left and right of him. They'd cleared buildings like this more times than they could count. With Gramps taking up the rear, the four of them were a well-oiled machine, moving silently into the two-story building. They could hear voices from above, and without a sound, the men entered the stairwell and started climbing. Holding up his fist to stop his team, Bull peered around the corner once they'd reached the second floor. Upon seeing no one in the hallway, he gestured for everyone to follow. He paused outside a door, where they could all clearly hear a lively discussion taking place. They couldn't understand the words, but that didn't matter. Their job was to find Khatun, kill him, and retreat. Their body cameras would record the conversation, and linguists would later translate everything that was said. After looking back at the best friends he'd ever had, Bull nodded at Eagle. He was the most important member of the team at times like this. He had the uncanny ability to recognize anyone after meeting them or seeing their picture only once. He had a near photographic memory. If Khatun was inside the room, Eagle would know it. It wouldn't matter if he'd cut his hair or otherwise tried to change his appearance. No one tricked Eagle. There'd been more than one op when Eagle had prevented them from killing the wrong person, or had been instrumental in making sure the target didn't get away with saying he was someone else. Bull pointed 2 fingers at his own eyes, then pointed into the room. Eagle nodded and raised his rifle. Looking back at Smoke and Gramps, Bull saw they'd crept up behind Eagle. The team was ready to breach the room. Taking a deep breath, Bull cleared his mind. The second they stepped into the room, all hell was going to break loose. Since he was leading the team, if the occupants were armed, it was likely he'd be shot first. But he couldn't think about that. He was wearing his body armor and had a job to do. Namely, to kill Khatun. Lifting a hand, Bull held up 3 fingers. Then he counted down. 3, 2, 1. Bull kicked in the door and he and his teammates burst into the room. Chaos erupted immediately. There were around 10 men in the room and a handful of women. The men immediately stood up and reached for weapons that had been leaning against the walls around them. "Don't move," Bull yelled, in a tone that was meant to be obeyed. Of course, no one listened, so Bull did what he did best. He aimed and fired. Bull had received his nickname in basic training because of his ability at the shooting range. In his weapons qualification course, he'd had a perfect score. It didn't matter what weapon he was using. He was perfect every time. Pistol, rifle, even the grenade. Wearing a gas mask on the night range? Perfect. Everyone had started calling him Bullseye, but over the years it had been shortened to Bull. And that was the reason he was leading the assault into the room filled with terrorists. He always hit his target. Always.